Hey guys, this is Kyle and Adam at ProjectionHub, back again to answer another SBA burning question. Here at ProjectionHub, we help people prepare projections, business plans, and also finding and preparing for SBA loans. Both Adam and I have direct experience working in SBA lending, especially Adam. So I'm going to ask him another SBA burning question that's been brought to us to get his kind of expert insight into that. And so today's question is, can I use a 401k loan or HELOC for my required SBA equity injection?
Yeah, this is a good question. So it depends is the answer, but let me kind of talk through like what the SBA is looking for in terms of your equity injection. Like in theory, they want you to have a 10% equity down payment or injection into any startup or acquisition deal. And the idea is that it's equity, which means it's not borrowed, is what they want, right? So they don't want to provide 100% financing. So when you take out a HELOC, you're borrowing that money. You're going to have to repay the HELOC. Or when you take out a 401k loan, you're going to borrow that money and have to repay the 401k loan. Now, it could get a little gray area here because let's say you needed $50,000 for your equity injection. Let's say you had $50,000 in cash or you had $60,000 in cash. So, okay, you go ahead and you use that for your equity down payment, but now you don't have a whole lot of cash left. You have a whole lot of rainy day fund personally. So then at that point, do you pull on a HELOC or do you take out a 401k loan to kind of replenish your savings? That's kind of a gray area. I mean, you have effectively still borrowed, in a sense, you borrowed your down payment. So the way that the SBA lender is gonna then look at that, if they say, okay, sure, you can do that, you can borrow it from a HELOC or 401k loan, they are going to take that loan payment that you're gonna have to make on the HELOC and determine whether you can personally pay that based on your outside income. If you can't, then you have to show it in the business projections that the business is really going to be repaying that loan. Somehow they need to show that you can cash flow it. So if you're in a situation where you're able to save a bunch of money every month based on your income and you take out a HELOC and it's a $500 a month payment on the HELOC and you have that available from outside income, then you're probably okay. You could probably do that and it's not going to be an issue for you. But if you don't have that outside income, then that's probably where you run into more trouble.
They're gonna not just look at your personal financial statement and say like, "Oh, hey, great, you've got $50,000 in cash, no extra questions." Right? They're probably going to require some sort of global debt understanding. Like they're gonna want to know. It's not just how much cash do you have. They're gonna want to know what your personal obligations are and what you owe to other people. So if you haven't applied for your loan yet and you're like, "Oh, I know this is going to be a requirement. Let me go ahead and grab this cash out so that it's ready to go." You're not going to go and apply, and the lender's just going to say, "Hey, you're good to go." They're going to want to kind of understand where they're probably not just going to ask you like, "Hey, where did that $50,000 come from?" But they're going to be able to put two and two together when they see, what other obligations you have personally. So one thing I know we've talked about, in previous videos before, but it's kind of the other side of this too, and that is how to strategically use these same types of, assets, pockets of money, for the collateral expectations for a loan application too. So there's probably something to be said there too, like specifically maybe for the HELOC, right? It could be strategically advantageous to not only tap into it if you can for some of the equity portion, but it also might save you from having to pledge your house as collateral for the SBA loan too. That's a totally another gray area, and we're not telling you out there today, listeners, to say like go get a HELOC so you don't have to pledge your house. But the point is, it's like if you've reduced the equity available in that, then the lender might be less interested in using that or requiring that as a part of your collateral, right? If there's a shortfall with the business assets. So that's kind of interesting, I think, but still, to your point, like it's probably not going to fly if that's the entirety of your equity injection and you don't have like the outside income, or that's going to put too much of a strain on your kind of global debt repayment situation. That's going to definitely cause a problem.
And I think it also depends on when you've taken that out versus when you talk to the lender. So, like, if you submit your first personal financial statement to the lender and the lender sees that and says you don't have the down payment, and then next thing you know, you've got the down payment magically, and but then you also now have a home equity line of credit. They're gonna see that, and that will not work as well as if you were in a situation where you already had the HELOC. Maybe you've had a HELOC for years and you just haven't drawn on it, or you haven't drawn on it fully. And then, you know, in preparation for applied for this loan, you draw on it and you've got that extra $50,000 sitting in cash in your savings account for a couple months. And then you apply and you put the 50,000 in cash in your savings account on your personal financial statement. That feels different, even though it's probably about the same. It feels different. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing, I think the 401k loan is actually pretty interesting because that the HELOC, the lender is going to see on your credit report, right? That's a personal loan. It's, that'll be on your credit report. Your 401k loan will not show up. I don't think, most likely it will not show up on your credit report as debt.
Because it's a loan to yourself, essentially.
It's a loan to yourself from the 401k. So you should disclose it on your personal financial statement. I'll say that you should disclose it, but also, yeah, I'll just say this. I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't realize that they need to disclose that. And they've got this 401k loan, but they've got the extra cash and it doesn't show up on their credit report. And so, lender just doesn't even know.
And a lender would probably, they'd probably like recommend or prefer like exploring a 401k loan versus like taking a penalty, withdrawal, right? Like if you're just, you end up with $50,000 less, but you've hurt your net worth a whole lot more than if you just would have gone the loan route. I don't know, like lenders probably, there's not like a hard and fast net worth rule when it comes to that application, but you are hurting kind of your longer term options by taking that approach. So like you said, it's probably better to structure under the loan and then just disclose it rather than being more worried about just showing up with the cash and not having to like tell anybody where it came from.
Yeah. That I I would say too that, if you one risk with the 401k loan, from the way I understand it, is you need to it assumes that you're still employed at whoever the sponsor is of that 401k. So, if you've got that 401k loan, then your idea is I'm going to start this business and then I'm going to leave that job that has the 401k loan attached to it. That 401k loan, I believe, in most cases, I don't know if this is always the case, but I think it's going to be due in full. Like if you are no longer at that employer, then you're going to have to repay that 401k loan in full. I think basically effective immediately, or you could just keep it, but then that's where now you have to pay the taxes and penalties on it. So there's some risk there, certainly, and I think probably lenders would be nervous about that from a cash flow perspective. Like you get yourself into a situation whether you leave the job or you lose the job, you could all of a sudden owe this $50,000 401k loan back like real quick. And yeah, could cause some problems for you. So
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Another SBA burning question answered. So if you're sitting out there today and you're considering starting a business, expanding a business, buying a business, and you're kind of working through these questions now about, the SBA equity injection and just figuring out these different pieces available to you in best structure, I'd recommend you check out the kind of free expert SBA review we offer. That's linked down below in the description below. It is a totally free review, and you'll answer some questions about your kind of personal situation, your plans for the business using your estimates, and we'll give you some guidance and some feedback and advice on how we would recommend structuring that, what your approval odds might be, some lenders that could be interested. So you can go ahead and check that out. If you've got any questions, you can leave a comment down below or email us directly at support@projectionhub.com, and we'd be happy to help. So there we go. We will catch you in the next video for our next SBA burning question.